Okay, I have found a new YouTuber called Mom on the Spectrum. Her name is Tay, and she speaks my language. So I'm going to do my first reaction video. Because it's completely real and hard to put all of this together myself. Mental health during this whole COVID thing that has thrown us all into chaos and just so much unknown, and just everything has gone haywire. And it's been a year and a half with the kids at home, with me on disability. That has not been easy, and part of that being an autistic parent, an autistic female parent with 3 female children, teenage children. I'm just gonna dive into this because she speaks my language, and it's so refreshing and amazing to have that, to have someone you can relate to so much. So here goes.
If you haven't already, subscribe, because that's the #1 way that you can help support the channel and help it grow and help the videos show up for other people like us who are looking for them. Okay, gonna be honest, that's about all the spunk that I have left in my tank today. This whole situation with makeup and bow is more of like a dress for the job that you want rather than dress for the job that you have type of mentality. Maybe dress for the mindset that you want rather than the mindset that you have. So the last video that I made.
Yeah. Very much, yeah. Just my response to that is so yes. Some days we just have to, like yesterday, I was dealing with a headache all day long. Headache, nausea, too much sound, too much light, too much. I had to wear my neck brace because the headache had to do with my neck being unstable and actually backwards. My neck is backwards. Yeah. That's why I'm actually an inch shorter than I used to be, is because my neck is backwards. But get here. Yeah. Just having to, some days just having to be dressed and be ready and have to physically look like you got something together, when mentally it's just, this is not me, and that's that.
About being in a meltdown kind of became clear. It's almost a little funny to me that after that video I realized, oh, this is more than a meltdown, this is more of a shutdown. I just have been out of commission. I think what's really cool about a neurodiverse community is that the first response to me sharing my experience is not, oh, you're doing too much, you're stressed, you know, what if you did this, what if you did this, which I think maybe is more typical of autistic people or non-autistic people. Y'all's comments have been like, oh, I totally relate, I understand. Y'all are sharing more words to describe exactly what I'm feeling. You're not negating my experiences. And so I just really appreciate that. And I think that's really, really cool. It's one of the things I'm most grateful for with my autism diagnosis is that it's connected me to other like-minded people who don't negate other people's experiences.
Yeah. The experiences that I have, mostly internally, it's very hard to find people that can relate to it or understand it or know what that means or try to help you walk through it or talk through it or think through it or put anything solid into existence, because it's just so big thought bubble. I don't know. And it's just airspace, because it's like people are trying to say, oh, you should do this. Oh, you should try this. But it's like, I can't try those things, because those things are not pertinent to me. And because you have a correctly wired mind and correctly wired body, and I have a differently wired mind and a differently wired body, you can't relate to me. And I know you want to be helpful, but being part of a community that is people like me, we're on each other's side, and we just want to be helpful, and we don't want to say, oh, your experience isn't real. It's not like that. And it's such a relief and a breath of fresh air to have that.
So great to have an autistic community who's like, nope, I see you, and even though you don't have the words to describe it, here's how it presents for me, and I'm thinking about you, and I support you. All of the responses have been so great, and I hope that in
not having the words to describe it, that's actually called alexithymia. When we have an experience or have a thought or some kind of word process thing going on, and we don't understand what the feeling is, we don't know what the words, it's just not there. Like, I didn't even really know how to explain it, because it's overwhelmingly, frustratingly complex, and you just draw a blank, because that's what happens. We can't connect it to anything. So having people say, oh, this is how it happens for me, maybe you can relate to it, blah, 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 that is huge.
turn, I've been able to give some of that back to y'all. Part of the reason I wanted to make a video today is because I woke up not knowing what mental state I was going to be in. I don't know if y'all can relate to that. And I was so frustrated because I opened my eyes this morning and I was like, oh, I still don't feel like myself today. And after I dropped the kids off, I just glanced at some of the comments on my videos because I was really behind. And I was just reminded, like, these are my people. These people understand me and they get me. And I don't know if you ever feel like you need a reminder that there's other weird-minded people out there. I mean that in like the highest form of compliment. There's other people out there who have weird brains like me. And this is where I wanted to be today, making a video for y'all because of the support that you've given me. My cat is behind the camera about to scratch his face, and I'm sure knock my whole setup over. Don't do it. Whoa. Do you want to sit with me?
Ooh.
It has to be his idea. Do you want to sit with me?
Be cute.
So I just needed a reminder that there's other people who wake up and wonder, what is my mental health going to be like today? I feel like that's a good segue into COVID stuff because it has constantly changed the landscape of life. It's very hard to wake up and think, what is this day going to hold? Because being on the spectrum, especially, we crave routine, we crave consistency, and COVID has blown that up. It sucks.
There has been, chaos is the only word I can use. Chaos is the only stinking word I can use for the last year and a half. There have been meltdowns. I'll wake up and know what I have to do that day and just automatically want the day to be done because I just can't do it. I just can't do it. And I'm so glad that that's done. I'm so glad that my kids are back to school. Oh. No, I'm not actually hiding behind the water bottle. I'm thirsty. Oh. Yay. What? Oh. How are you? Take a break. No.
And it's really hard, and I find myself always trying to be a positive person, glass is half full, but that's been especially difficult. Yep. This past year, I was able to make it work to the best of my ability. I stayed home. I was really fortunate to be able to be in a situation where I could do that and homeschool my kids. Yep. And I will tell you that I'm not a homeschool mom. It was a challenging year for all of us, but in many ways beneficial, and I did love spending that extra time with my kids. I'm realizing now that that also kept me from having to interact with a lot of people, and it hit me this week. Oh my gosh, I think part of the reason that I'm in shutdown mode is that I've had to have so much interpersonal communication with teachers.
Yeah, that's been hard. I'm realizing these things myself. Twinkle. That I've been so shut away from everything, having to do schedules and school paperwork and things for my husband's business. Sorry about all that. It's just, it's taken a lot to be social again, because in the first place, I'm not massively social. But now having to get back into being social in certain aspects, it's a whole new ballgame. So, like before, I would put off making a phone call for a couple days because I don't like phone calls. Now it's like, okay, I have to do this. And I have to do it today, not next week. So, I have to push myself past my anxiety, past my discomfort zone. Yeah.
Teachers, administration, we're trying to get my kids the therapy that they need. So school psychologists, diagnosticians, I've had to have so much correspondence with a much higher number of people than I'm used to, and it's been extremely draining. Yeah. So last Monday we sent my second grader and my kindergartner to public school. In many ways, it's amazing. They're both loving school, and I'm really grateful for that. I have time during the day to be to myself. Yes. I'm operating on such a deficit for alone time that it's like I almost can't enjoy the alone time that I do have because it just feels like not even close to enough. And I feel kind of guilty for saying that out loud.
It doesn't feel like not enough for me. It feels like, oh my gosh. The house is empty. I can cut up my veggies with a face mask on and just walk around in my underwear. I don't have to worry about someone else saying, oh, you should be doing this. Oh, you should be doing this. What about that? What about that? Mom. And it does. It feels, there is a guilty feeling around that because it's like, I'm not supposed to feel that, right? I'm not supposed to feel guilty for, oh my gosh, everyone's out of the house. I can actually be alone. I can actually be myself. I can breathe. I can relax. I can give myself things and not feel like everything's going to get in the way of it. Yesterday, I got to vacuum with no one in the way, no one stopping me, no one telling me, oh, you didn't vacuum right, or no one. It's just, it's not that we don't love our families or anyone we live with. It's that we have to take care of ourselves. And if we don't get to do that, if mom doesn't take care of herself, the kids, the family, if the parents don't take care of their marriage, it's like that. It's like if you don't go on dates, if you don't spend time with your spouse, for one, what are you showing your kids? What are you showing your friends? What are you showing your spouse? What are you showing yourself about what matters? And if my mind is not screwed on right, if I can't think through and keep the house running, keep myself running, then it's just going to go to poop. And we feel guilty for that. Alone time, quiet house time is so important.
Immediately, whenever I say I feel guilty.
Oh, and this still bothers me. Last year, a year and a half ago, whatever, I actually had a comment by someone close to me that, here's what was said. You got so much alone time, I think you've been spoiled. No, I haven't been spoiled, but that made me feel like crap. Because taking time to myself, knowing what I need to fully thrive as a human being, and taking that for myself, and this person is someone I'm supposed to be able to be real with, you're darn right I'm gonna cry. You're darn right I'm going to feel like, no. Don't tell people that. Okay. Backing up.
My internal monologue is like, don't feel guilty, you need this time. You know, it's hard because I do have alone time now, but I'm in recovery mode. And so no amount of alone time feels like enough. And sometimes that makes me feel kind of selfish as a mom, as a wife, as a friend. But I know that I will show up better in all of those roles if I do take care of myself. So The past week I was kind of in survival mode, getting the kids to school, getting our new routines established. Somebody said in the comments, they felt kind of silly because they sent their kids to school and they didn't realize like, oh yeah, this completely changes my routine too. Well, I feel the exact same way. Of course, I knew it would change my kids' routines and schedules. But the first day that I was without them, I was like, oh my gosh, my entire calendar is completely different in every way, shape, and form. And that's so unsettling to me. I was even thinking, you know, to go back and do some of the same things that were in my routine before school would feel pretty good, even though they don't necessarily make sense now. Like, there's no need for me.
I'm going back before all this COVID stuff hit and started and school was off and everything was shut down. I had actually gotten into a routine, a daily routine, I guess. I made myself a chore chart. And from then to now, my chores have shifted, but I went back into the saved one on the computer, and I shifted all of that, and now I have my chore chart back up on the wall, and I have a kid's chore chart now too. And I do not care if it sounds juvenile, if it sounds silly, if it sounds ridiculous that I need to have a chore chart. I don't care because it works for me and it's helpful. So I can shift it around all I want as long as I am doing what I need to. We're good. We're good.
To have some of those things in my routine, because instead of going outside of the house to get them done, I can do them inside the house. But just having some sort of familiar structure, I'm really craving that right now, and it's really hard to find. But we made it through the first week. My son came home on Friday with a fever. It didn't develop until that evening, and I went kind of into panic mode. Not on the outside, but just internally, and I kind of realized how scared I am of the whole COVID situation. I started spiraling, thinking, if this happens, that means this is gonna happen, and that's gonna affect my husband's work. And so I started spinning out, thinking about all the possibilities of what this might mean. Fast forward, my son took a COVID test, I took a COVID test, it's all negative. It was like a really weird virus that had no symptoms other than fever. He was playing and everything, totally fine. So it came and went very quickly, but the internal process of what happened during that time for me was very unnerving. It's really hard as a parent to navigate this, because as an autistic mom, I came to grips with the fact that it was not good for my mental health to embark on another year of homeschooling. Also financially, we need to transition to where both my husband...
I used to want to homeschool. Nope. I got to try it because of COVID. That's out the window. Not happening.
and I are working. And so having that realization of, oh, I can't homeschool my kids, we have to send them to school in the midst of a pandemic, it's a very scary feeling. I live in a state where mask mandates have been banned, which is hard again because having neurodivergent kids, it definitely affects their learning having to wear a mask all day. So in one sense, I'm glad that they don't have to wear a mask every day because I know that it would really bother them. But in another sense, I wish that they did because it would make me feel that they were safer and that our health was more protected. And so I immediately had this sense of like, oh my gosh, they're gonna bring home so many germs. I know that sometimes along with being on the spectrum, it can be associated with other things like fixations. And for me, one of those fixations is on health and sickness. And I get really, really upset about sickness. I don't like the unpredictability that it brings.
Yes, I have a fixation on health and wellness as well. I also know that for my family, that's a good thing. But as long as I keep myself from going overboard or oversharing, because that's also a thing about being on the spectrum is we overshare all the time on either a personal like special interest or on a fixation. And for me, a lifelong fixation is going to be mental health and just health and wellness in general, just because if you've watched any of my other videos, you'd know that we do deal with different mental illnesses, and also we're two of us are zebras. We're EDSers. We have EDS running in our family, so that comes with a whole host of health issues. So yes, that is my fixation.
I don't like how it changes routines and schedules. I don't like how sickness affects my mind because it takes it out of the flow of what I'm used to. And so I started dealing with these feelings of I can't control the day. You know, I can't keep my kids at home like I've done for the last year and a half, and we managed to minimize contact. Now it's just like I'm opening the door wide open and just trying to take things one day at a time, and it's been really, really intimidating. So I felt like it was important to open that door and share that because I know so many of us parents are feeling that way, but we haven't necessarily had a place to talk about it or process it. And it's very important that we do process it, or else all of that frustration and tension and fear, it just keeps building. And I think that's part.
This is helping me. Listening to her and having an outlet to respond to this is helping me to be able to process through all of it, especially since she's sharing a lot of the stuff that I'm sure I'm not the only one who has also dealt with. Her kids are younger. My kids are all can kind of take care of themselves, you know, they can come home off the bus, and if I'm napping, it's not a big deal, blah, blah, blah. But there are a lot of us going through things like this, and we need to have other people to be able to talk about this stuff with, to be able to process it with. I'm going to make this a 2-part because I'm already at the 25-minute mark. Be right back.